Oh, wait. Before we go in, let me tell you a little about an English pub. It's not like a saloon. It's more like a club. A club for men and women who haven't a great deal of money and who don't drink for the sake of drinking, but for the company. Come on, take a look.
Imagine not being able to socialize under restrictions and limitations imposed within the physical world, whether it is due to accessibility, disability, religious beliefs, geographical locations, law and regulations, or health restrictions like we all now experience as a whole with this pandemic. The advancement of the virtual have now challenged the course to this bodily limitation, as it is simply two different worlds with two different possibilities. What once was unacceptable, now virtually welcomed. Things such as dating within Islamic religion with no formalities are now celebrated with Muslim dating app. While in some Muslim country, unrelated man and woman are not allowed to be in one space. Perhaps, technically, it isn't violating the written law of the religion. Same goes to the virtual disputes that spills over to the physical world that has never been resolved due to the intangibility of those cases. For example, the so-called cybercrime of hacking to get a better deal for buying virtual non-existent land by Mark Bragg in social virtual platforms Second Life. This will continue to happen when we're trying to impose the rule of the physical onto the virtual. It will never make any sense. In this project, I will be focusing on two spaces of isolation such as the approved premises as a case study. The project departs from our research towards the civic and the domestic spaces within physical and virtual world. The pub, which serves both civic and domestic, has become pinnacle of social integration in London since 15th century, which initially evolved from the inn for hosting the travelers. It was once indistinguishable from domestic architecture. The humbler public house was literally that, the home of the landlord. As the dwellings continues to change throughout the year and the development of drinking establishment continues to diverse, the notion of pub survives and never go out of demand, with its strong traditional values. Particularly in London, which currently hosts 3,500 pubs in total, it is evident that the number of pubs rises within the area where there is less residential developments, such as the City of London. London is known as an ever-changing, vibrant city that continues to redevelop, most notably in places like Stratford. Stratford has undergone tremendous amount of change recently, where a completely new and foreign urban typology, largely due to the Olympic, has swept in that now creates a big division, becoming the old Stratford and the new Stratford. It makes such a perfect case study to see how the pub typology is then evolving. If we zoom into the old Stratford, it is apparent that each pub has its own demographic, regulars, as well as their own characteristic. But as a whole, the notion of pub has a distinct feature, almost to replicate traditional domestic environment. Furniture such as leather sofa, wooden chairs and tables, wooden floorings, carpet, music, screen to host sporting events or pub quiz, and its specific spatial arrangement that circulate around the bar. Much like the pub, most spaces has to follow certain guidelines. Let's take UK approved premises as an extreme example, which is a residential unit that houses ex-offenders in the community. With this carefully designed national standard furniture from UK National BIM Library mainly for health and safety concerns, standardization of spaces such as standing room, game room, and quiet room are essential throughout most of 100 London approved premises. Even though it hosts similar public, approved premises is less black and white than a prison, as they have few offenders actually on bail, with the majority of residents made up of those on release from prison on license for a duration of 3 to 6 months. In general, it is interesting how places with such complex programs and agenda which aims at different public has been vastly standardized. Moreover, both pub and approved premises have gone through extensive media intervention. Things such as television and pub, as well as virtual reality with an improved premises, just to connect the outside in. Unlike all of these past examples, we are now in a moment of history where we can create a kind of integration which is unprecedented. We are now able virtually and remotely put one person and an entire environment from one place onto another and integrate the two. I imagine a future scenario where most citizens of places like London have access to virtual integration, especially as it is for those under any form of isolation through a non-intrusive AR glasses. With this ambition, the only way for me to really understand where the breaking points are with virtual social interaction is to actually build a real pub. So I decided to set up a number of experiments, one of which is a pub quiz within our school community to physically join, while simultaneously I built a virtual mirror of our unit space that can be joined virtually from all over the world. I set up a camera in the virtual space and live stream it back to the screen in virtual room and the other way around, so that both worlds can interact as if they're in the same room together. These are actual people that I don't know joining by the use of VR glasses through social virtual platform. The only problem with this scenario is the interface between us. Although it allows us to overcome the limitation of the screen like what we experience in Zoom call, when we can only have one conversation at a time with no sense of immersion. One great power we have in the virtual is that it doesn't have the same physics as the real world, so we can easily bend into a space however we want it. Using the advantage of standardization of space, we can easily augment different objects to any surfaces by mapping objects according to its parameters. This creates flexibility of use to be implemented in multitude of other kind of spaces. Using the main pub rule as a guideline, making the bar as the focal point to map and mirror two or more spaces by unfolding and wrapping, I can see a future where you and I enjoying gin and tonic in our favorite pub located in London under different time zones while being in isolation with no societal bias, as anyone can be whoever they want in the virtual world and nobody can physically harm anybody in the virtual. We all deserve a free-for-all, non-judgmental virtual world as an escape from reality, with the possibility to get to know what the world has to socially offers.
Living